Gracious and loving God, help us this day to understand your dream for our world, to be transformed in Jesus' love, and to use our gifts to make a difference for others. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. Well, it's good to be here with you tonight in this holy place for a holy pause in the midst of all the things that Christ might mean for you. It might be a holy pause in the busyness of all the gatherings and the decorating and all that other kind of stuff that you get up to, or a pause from travel and that kind of busyness. Or maybe you come tonight with a Christmas that's not too full, but a Christmas that is too empty. Maybe you come with an ache of missing people who are far away, or of somebody that you lost this past year. But whatever this Christmas means for each of us, we have taken the time to stop and be present to God and to one another with all these things going on in our lives or in our heads or in our hearts. On a holiday that is so rich and so busy and so lonely sometimes, we're asked on this day, where is Christ in all this? Where is Christ in this world that's even more chaotic than our Christmas plans and running around? Where is Christ in the quiet of the night when I ponder the challenges of my life? Well, on this night, we celebrate Christ, the eternal author of life. And he leaps into the midst of our world, and he leaps into the midst of our lives and comes to be present with us in the midst of all of that. And we're invited to see that in a special way when we gather for Christmas. Many decades ago, a Christian teacher by the name of Reinhold Niebuhr wrote a book entitled Christ and Culture. He was wondering, how does Christ show up in this chaotic world? How does Christ show up in the midst of a chaotic and kind of catawampus people? And he actually has like 5 or 6 ways that Christ shows up, but I just want to share with you 3 tonight, on this night when we celebrate Christ leaping in. So one of his categories is that we can see Christ in culture, which seems a little different than sometimes how we hear about it. I mean, all Starbucks has to do is change their cup, right? And people are in an uproar because somehow culture is going away from Christmas. But I think Christ is present in our culture. Christ is present because if you look out around this time of year, there are people seeking to find ways to help those in need, whether it's hungry people or children or whatever, Toys for Tots, all that kind of stuff. There's an emphasis to reach out to people who don't have enough in so many different ways, with food or necessary clothing, or maybe just that one toy that a family couldn't get. And my point about Christ in culture, and Niebuhr's point about Christ in culture, is that these people aren't all Christian people. These people aren't all religious people. It's just something that sweeps up our culture at this time of year. And if we're willing to look for it, we can see Christ there. Even if the people who are doing it are not naming it Christ, we know that Christ is moving there. Christ also shows up in the cultures of our family this time of year, the things that we do to show one another love. In our house, we make waffles on Christmas morning because my son, as a little kid, loved waffles. He's 23 now. He eats way more waffles than he used to eat. But it's just something we do is like a little sign of love. We don't do it because Jesus said, hey, you should make waffles on Christmas morning, right? There's nothing about that in the Christmas story. But I think in the culture of our family, it's one of those things we do that just shows forth a little bit of love. And so you can even look, even if it's not specifically religious, you can look in your family's culture and practices and all those things, and you can see Christ at work. Christ is at work in the world at Christmas if we can just look for it. Now, it's not all positive. Reinhold Niebuhr also says there's a way in which Christ is against culture. And at Christmas, which is what I'm thinking about now with culture, we can feel that pressure to get the right gift, or be disappointed if we don't get the right gift for someone else, or be disappointed if we don't get the right gift. We feel pressure to put on gatherings that are both peaceable and well-stocked if you're welcoming people into your house. It feels a little bit like, somehow all this is showing love, and yet instead it just creates stress because we forget the main point of us all getting together sometimes. Commercials can drag us down this path, can't they? You know the one. I don't know about you, but when I'm watching TV sometimes and a commercial comes on, and the end of the commercial is somebody experiencing unbelievable joy over a Lexus with a bow in the driveway, I kind of go, that's not right. That's what I just say to myself. Trying to fill up our longings with just more and more extravagant stuff. In that case, right, you can look at that and go, well, that's Christ against culture right there. That's that deep goodness of Christ coming into the world, not so everybody can have a Lexus. But the most helpful category for me with Niebuhr is he talks about Christ transforming culture. It's really good to look for Christ in all the things I talked about at the beginning, in all the good things that people do. That's terrific. And in some ways, maybe Christ is already transforming culture if we live in a culture where that happens around this time of Jesus' birth, even if people don't name it. So that's good. And it's really liberating to free ourselves from expectations or whatever it is that our culture does to create anxiety instead of joy. That's a good thing. But the key is that Christ leaps into this world, leaps into the chaos to transform it. That's the point. And if transforming culture is too big of an idea, really Christ leaps into our lives as individuals. Christ leaps into our families to transform those to be more and more loving. Bishop Porter Taylor was a bishop in North Carolina, and he preached a great sermon, and you should just go read it because it's better than my sermon, but I get to steal some stuff from his. And Bishop Taylor said, "Once we see the Christ beside us and in us, we cannot go back to old ways. Indeed, that's the real gift of Christmas. It's about believing that the incarnation is not a once-in-history event. It happens every time we leave our comfort zone and dare to look for God being born in the most unexpected places. Places like our houses and neighborhoods. It's so easy to forget," he says, "that Emmanuel, God with us, is always present, regardless of how our lives look. As a result, we need to have that reality reborn in us so that we are free to live our lives regardless of our situations. Once we do that, we can take a different route to the scary and peaceful places in our lives or in our times of history. Because the awareness of God being reborn in us and in this world happens over and over again. It's the gift that is under the Christmas tree, or, to our surprise, everywhere. We just have to step outside of our routines and look for the birth, and then be willing to go a different way. This is my favorite line. You can ponder this. You can lay awake sleep, thinking about it. You may not, but I do. The truth is, God comes disguised as your own life. Jesus, leaping into the world in Bethlehem, is just the beginning of the story. What happens in your life is God being reborn in love over and over and over again. And when God is born in you, then the culture is changed a little bit by bit. The ultimate end of Christmas is that Christ might inspire you, people like you and me, to leap into the chaos of the broken world with him as well. That's the end. When we pause long enough, like we're doing right now, and we ask, how might Christ be present in this season to transform what is bad news into good news, then we look. That's what we start to do. We begin to look for how Christ might enter in. For where there's not enough love in my family or community, we begin to look and we ask him to leap into those situations with his grace and love. And we ask that we might leap in along with him. May we know the blessing this night of Christ leaping into our lives like that. Leaping into our lives. May we be given the blessing of remembering Christ is beside us and in us. That Christ is disguised in our own lives. And may we also have the courage and the grace to leap into the chaos right along with him. Amen.